Disney doesn't care what fans have to say about their upcoming projects. They simply want to create things that they believe will make them money, but now they are completely ignoring the Snow White backlash and pushing ahead two more controversial remakes. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. So I wanted to reference this inside the Magic article. It says Disney's live-action remakes rarely go down well with audiences, and its upcoming slate will likely be no exception. Now, there were a few that I have said on this channel that I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed the Cinderella one, I enjoyed the Beauty and the Beast one, even though they did stray a little bit from the original Disney animated stories. They were still enjoyable, though. But then they started creating ones like The Little Mermaid and Peter Pan and Wendy. Now we've got Snow White, and all of those ones so far have been disasters, and I do think that the Snow White one is going to fail. I don't think it is going to do what they want, but to hear that they are continuing to kind of double and triple down on the live actions when so few of them have gone well really kind of shows the state of Disney, because they don't know what else to do. They are still creating animated films like their upcoming Wish one, but it's just not clicking with audiences. A lot of their movies lately have not been clicking with audiences, and to me, it just kind of shows that they're not exactly sure what to do, but in the meantime, they want to do these remakes to try to keep the audience they have had in the past, and it's really not working. I mean, I am someone who loved the Disney princess movies a lot, all of the animateds growing up, but then, I gave the live actions a chance and some of them were good, but as they have declined in quality, my interest has declined, and a lot of them I would not go to pay to see now. I wouldn't have paid to see Mulan if it was in theaters. It wasn't because of the lockdowns. I wouldn't pay to see Peter Pan and Wendy, even though that didn't go to the theaters, or Little Mermaid. They barely made money on that. And there's no freaking way I would pay to see Snow White. Part of the problem is these remakes are designed from the ground up to not only, yes, change the source material, but push their agenda and identity politics. Instead of just letting the movies tell the original stories, they're modifying them to inject political messaging into them. Like with Peter Pan and Wendy, they swapped out the Lost Boys for the Lost Misfits. They were boys and girls and were all around more diverse, and in no way did they represent the Lost Boys from Disney's Peter Pan animated. With Mulan, they removed the entire romance, every single song, and then they added brand new characters. If you're gonna make live action adaptations for us, then make an adaptation, not a reboot. It's really that simple. Don't change the story and characters more than you have to get it to work in a live action format. It's why I and many other people, whenever we hear live action, it makes us kind of cringe a little bit, and we think to ourselves, okay, what are they changing next? It says, though, as of 2023, Disney has released many live-action remakes of its animated classics. It says, with the latest Little Mermaid receiving relatively positive reviews, it struggled to make a profit at the box office. And yes, they made so many changes to this. It's a reason why I wouldn't support it. Of course, they did decide ultimately to cast a woman of color as Ariel. That wouldn't have been so much of an issue for so many people if they really tried to keep it as close otherwise to the animated as possible, but they went on to, change lyrics in songs like Poor Unfortunate Souls and Kiss the Girls so that it didn't offend modern audiences. They decided to change up a lot of the costumes. They decided to just change so much with the film that it ended up being kind of a mess, and there were too many issues, in my opinion, to support it. But its next project, Snow White, has already struck a nerve with audiences. This is largely thanks in part to the comments by its leading lady, Rachel Zegler, there are not a lot of people out there who like Rachel Zegler. She does have some super fans, but I've got to be honest, I think that this movie will severely struggle because of the things that she has said, because of how arrogant and disrespectful to the legacy of Snow White she has been. And unfortunately, I don't think that any amount of time is going to change that. But it says going forward, they are actually greenlighting several more live action adaptations. According to the Disney Insider, Disney is in the process of developing remakes of Frozen and Princess and the Frog. Now, it's kind of a no-brainer that eventually they would try their hand with Frozen because they're in the process of making Frozen 3, but just look at how popular the Frozen IP has been since they created it. I mean, billions of dollars just from this one single property. Never mind, just the one movie with the one song absolutely skyrocketed in popularity. I personally don't think a Frozen live action adaptation would honestly be that hard to do. Yes, it would be a lot of money because of the CGI that would have to go into this film, but really at its core, it's just normal characters, right? Yes, we've got Elsa who can summon ice, and then Anna, but we're talking primarily about human characters, so it's not like they have to get a lot of CGI going for the characters. It's primarily going to be the environments, and I do think that a Frozen live-action adaptation could go relatively well as long as they put a giant amount of money into it. But Princess and the Frog, I think, is going to be a little bit harder, primarily because it's the complete opposite of Frozen, where, yes, the characters start off as humans, but 90% of the story, they are not. They are frogs, and then we get into the territory of it being like the Lion King adaptation, which was 90% CGI, and at that point, it doesn't really fall under the same category anymore. Like, you might as well just not make it because people did like just the 2009 Princess and the Frog so much. But this means that they are completely disregarding what fans are saying. They don't care at all what our criticisms are of these live action adaptations, because these are in early development, and they still are not listening to the backlash surrounding films like Rachel Zegler's Snow White. It just means that they do not care about what we have to say, which honestly isn't that surprising, right? Disney's a massive company. They just want to make money, and they're simply greenlighting things that they think are going to make them a boatload of cash. But in my opinion, this is the worst thing that they could do right now, is greenlight all of these live action adaptations when they have had so many losses in a row with them. It also says Disney hasn't officially announced the remakes, but there are several sources saying that internally they have greenlit them. However, considering its track record and the fact that it's already remade or announced remakes of 8 entries into the franchise, including the relatively recent Moana, it's only a matter of time before it turns its attention to other princesses. I think that a Moana remake / live action, I think they're trying too hard at this point to milk all of these characters, and I think what they are going to do is they are going to create a lot of hatred for these characters. People are going to be very annoyed with seeing the more recent Disney princesses adapted into live action formats. Moana's not a bad character. Moana was not a bad movie, but there is no reason why it deserves a live action adaptation. And Bob Iger also recently announced plans for Disney to double down on its unrivaled brands and franchises, and that inevitably means more sequels and remakes in the future. Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise that they would try as hard as they possibly can to bank on the characters and the IPs they already have that have been successful in the past, but I just think that people are getting pretty sick and tired of these live action adaptations already, and I think as time goes on, people are going to continue to fight back against them. Look at the backlash that Peter Pan and Wendy faced, the backlash the Little Mermaid faced, the backlash that Snow White is facing, and it's not even released yet. So overall, I think that it's not surprising that they're doing all of this, but it still does suck that Disney has continued to ignore the criticisms that we have levied towards all of these films, and they are completely disregarding it by pushing ahead 2 more controversial remakes. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.